Our second speaker is Caroline Ward. Caroline Ward-Holland is a tribal elder with the Fernandino Tataviam band of Mission Indians. She was the organizer and leader of the 2015 Walk for the Ancestors, a 780-mile journey to all California missions. She is also an artist and a small business owner. I want to go ahead and thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Tribal elder.
Thank you very much. I am, as I said, a tribal elder with the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, and I am currently coming to you live from my homeland in northern Los Angeles County. What I wanted to share with you today is my experience and my truth about California missions. 2015, Pope Francis announced that he was moving forward with the canonization for Una Paracera, and he was going to make him a saint. They had scheduled a date, and it was on. I can honestly say that every California Indian or any indigenous person in the state of California was outraged. We could not believe that he was going to canonize someone and make him a saint when he was at the forefront of slavery for our ancestors. With that said, I went to my tribal president and I let him know that I wanted to assert rejection, of course, but I also wanted to honor my ancestors at this time, especially. So I plan to walk from my ancestral village, which is current day Magic Mountain, in Valencia, to Mission 17 in San Fernando, which I believed would be the most likely route that they would have taken to get there. And we wanted to actually walk in their footprints and to honor them and let them know that we had not forgotten and that we will never forget the atrocities that they endured at these missions. So I attended a symposium in Santa Barbara, and that brought me to the point where I felt like I needed to walk for all the ancestors. And so my son and I set out to Northern California on our way to Mission Solano, Mission 21, the last mission built, and we began walking on September 7th. And we walked for 60 days, and we walked 780 miles. But what we saw and heard and actually witnessed through this journey, some of the things are just unspeakable. We were able to meet with tribal leaders across the state, and they welcomed us into their territory and met us at these missions. And we gathered together with whoever wanted to come, with people who understood what was going on, people who wanted to talk about it, people who were trying to heal. And we formed a circle and at every mission, and we went to the graves of our ancestors and prayed with them. Unfortunately, at some of these missions, there were no graves to pray with. There was parking lots and or grave sites that had been disrupted and made into parking lots or farm fields. At mission, we started in 21. When we got to Mission San Rafael, mission propaganda, a plaque out front read, and I quote, "We have baptized 150 Indians, and we have another 150 waiting for instruction." This is just the beginning of the experience that we had. When we went to the rectory to ask where the burials were, the woman looked at me like she thought I was crazy, and she pointed up to the top of the parking lot, and she said, "They're up there underneath the parking lot." And so it began. We walked to Mission Dolores, and in the garden area, there was a statue of a plain-dressed Indian woman, and it said, "This is dedicated to our faithful Indians." When we got to Mission Santa Cruz, we ran into the same story about the ancestors' burials were underneath the parking lot. And the woman in the rectory there said that we wouldn't have to worry, they wouldn't be disturbed again. This was painful, to say the least. This some of the stories that we heard after talking to tribal leaders, and we had Martin Rizzo, who gave us information about how many people were there, and where they were buried, and baptismal records. And none of these missions, not one of them, had a area where the ancestor burials were. They were they didn't have any regard for them whatsoever. At Mission San Juan Bautista, I had listened to their narrative in the mission about how they brought the Indians together and they taught them community, and they took care of them. Not one word of that is true. Not one word of that is true. At these missions, they were starved, they were raped, they were beaten, they were worked to death. So when I hear today from the Archdiocese, both LA and Monterey, about how we're not giving truth, and this is not how the Indians were treated, I can see that not much has changed in 500 years. Every time I hear that statement, I understand why these statues need to come down. They must come down because of that narrative, because there is no respect for the people, no respect for the ancestors, and no truth. For an organization that people hold in such high moral regard, there's not one thing that is true about anything that they say. These statues have come down in LA, and it was a direct action where the statue came pulled off of its pedestal. And that was the beginning for me as far as understanding that truth needs to be exposed. That truth has to be exposed. At Mission 17 in San Fernando, when we got there, the first day, my tribal president said, when the Pope said he was canonizing Sarah and he went through with it, what he was saying from his position down is that we were less than. Because all the cards and letters, all the phone calls, all of the meetings, and all of the collective indigenous efforts to stop this canonization, none of us were even contacted by the Pope. We were not contacted by the church at all. I know that some tribal leaders met with the LA Archdiocese, and basically they said that there was nothing that we could do. At Mission Soledad in Salinan homeland, when we got there, there was bones that covered the ground. And in the gift shop, there was a jar that said, please do not collect the bones. It actually said, please do not collect the bones. They had plowed through the parking lot, plowed through the burials and to build a parking lot. I went back 6 months later, and they had, because we called them on it and we said, this is what is going on there at Mission Soledad. 6 months later, I went back and the new sign said, at the Native Americans' request, please do not collect the bones. This is common practice for all of these. What we soon to learn were concentration camps with a cross. There was no understanding of how people could be treated so badly. There was a quote from Unapeta Serra that read, I do not see by what reason or law that my Indians should not be whipped. He wrote to the King of Spain. He was complaining about Father Lawson, who is the father that actually was based where my homeland is, in 17. He also had quotes, and this is from his diaries, that said, we have two harvests, one of the children's souls who are dying, and one of their farm fields. This is what kind of mindset this person had. And people will say, oh, he's a man of his time. At no time should anyone be subjected to such brutal treatment ever. How he was a saint is beyond me. When we were at Mission 2 in Carmel on the day of the canonization, we could hear the celebrations going on the other side of the church. And we were actually told that we could not go on that side of the church. So the gathering that we had, we stayed in the graveyard. And afterwards, there were people coming up to us and saying, we understand that he should not be a saint. We understand, but we wanted to be here because it's a part of history. A part of history where that same narrative by the church and by the United States government is still being played out today. Shame on the United States. Shame on Jerry Brown for welcoming the Pope here to conduct his canonization. He went to Washington, D.C. to do the canonization because he wouldn't dare come to California. Why would he canonize someone in Washington, D.C. who was the father of the missions in California? For obvious reasons, because we would have ran him out of town. There's no way that he would have came here. Every mission is the same. Their artwork portrays soldiers with swords and Bibles with their foot on top of the world. This is their intent, to Christianize or Catholicize the whole world at whatever cost. And there's another picture of a soldier with his foot on the chest of a obviously darker person with a sword and a Bible. These are they tell them themselves, Cat Wilder said, they do tell them themselves. At Mission San Miguel, there was a plaque out front that said, "We chose this place because of the abundance of Salinan Indians." And when they ran out of local tribes, they went further east to find it, Yokuts and whoever else that they could bring in there to build their missions. We are told that there's ancestors buried in the walls at these missions at San Juan Bautista. Ancestors wrote letters and drew pictures of torture equipment that they used. And they gave these to John Harrington. There's nothing that I am telling you that is not true. At Mission 17, there was an Indian who tried to leave, and he was brought back. He was tied to a fence post, naked in the hot sun, wrapped in fresh calf skin until he suffocated. And he was left there all day for everybody to witness so that they knew not to run away. Father Lawson at Mission 17 in San Fernando wrote to the King of Spain and said, the Indians' love for liberty is at the heart of the mission problem because we did not want to be there. Sure, maybe some came just out of curiosity and because they were starving and went to these missions, but once they were baptized, they could not leave. They could not leave those missions once they were baptized. And if they did, they were hunted down and they were brought back and made an example of. There's stories in my own tribe. My cousin Beverly tells us that her grandfather said that his first day there, he saw an ancestor hanging in the old church and he hung there all day. All of this is due to the fact that the doctrine of discovery for this country simply states, if they're not Christians, then they're not people, they're not humans. So we weren't even considered human beings. So when I hear the archdiocese, both of them, Monterey and LA, talk about how Father Sarah did this and Father Sarah did that, it does not surprise me because they do not tell the truth. They steal from us. Every time they lie to us, they steal from us. They've stolen our grandparents' lives. They have stolen most of my life. Most of my life, I've tried to fit into a society that is simply not in touch with reality. This system was designed to kill us, to kill Indian people. And every time that the archdiocese denies the treatment of the ancestors, they're trying to kill us. These statues are a constant reminder, just like the El Camino Real bells. The El Camino Real bells, El Camino Real is the King's Road. So they took our indigenous trade route and put these bells, there's 1,900 of them across the state of California, the way that they traveled to get from mission to mission. Those bells are 1,900 reminders of what they did to the ancestors. Every time we have a park, a school, or anything that is on city property or belongs to the city that is named after this criminal, Sarah, or any other person who's historical figure that's been rewarded for crimes against humanity are erected anywhere is a direct insult to the indigenous people. The border is a direct insult to the indigenous people. The state of California is constantly turning their back on indigenous people with the canonization, with this border, with, well, we are a sanctuary, but when they do not know their history, and most people don't know this history, is because the Catholic Church did such a great job at hiding it. They're still denying it. They still have their doors open after molesting children for centuries. This has been going on for centuries. And when that was happening, where were all the people? There was no people standing out in front of these missions saying, this has got to stop. Why? No public officials, no government officials, no police, no child services, nothing. How does this happen? How is this still continuing to happen today? This is a direct form of genocide. These monuments, these plaques telling of how they brought community. We were here for thousands of years before they got here. They would have starved to death if we wouldn't have helped them. This is another colonial lie. And the statues, the ones in my homeland are down. I understand that they may be put back up. If they are put back up, they are going to come down again. They will come down. And it's gotten to this point to where we feel like we need to take them down because of the Catholic Church refusal to acknowledge the treatment of our ancestors, the refusal to acknowledge that their saint was a criminal. The church has committed these crimes around the world. Around the world. Every indigenous community has suffered at the hands of the Catholic Church. At Mission 17, the day after we met there, which was the first time that anybody in our tribe had ever been on the land together singing in 50 years or more. The next morning we went there and there was a padre out front and I asked him if I could talk to him. And he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "You're a liar. You are a liar. Your people were perverse. They were committing human sacrifice and that's why they were brought into the church. The missionaries did a good job, God knows." My understanding is that he was new out of seminary, which is unbelievable because that means that they're still teaching these lies in seminary, still today. They are still teaching their new padres to believe this colonial lie. Because every time they lie, they don't have to face the fact of the crimes that they've committed and that they are still committing today. These missions are no more, as I said before, but concentration camps with a cross. It is sickening and irresponsible for us to not call the truth to this matter. The Archdiocese needs to understand that we know the truth and we're not going anywhere. We're still here. Their intent was to come here and kill us and to have everyone know this romantic mission story. It's a lie. And every time they deny it, they are continuing to steal from us as people. We are not going anywhere. We have not just tribal people, California Indian tribal people, but we have indigenous people from every known Americas, as they call them now, in line, in solidarity with us. And it doesn't take a scholar or a genius to understand what needs to be done. I understand that the city council is discussing where they're going to take these statues. They can't go back up. If they go back up, they're going to come back down. And any other statue that is put up rewarding any person that has a questionable history against crimes against humanity will come down. What are we teaching our children? We are putting a rubber stamp on all of the crimes that this church has committed if we allow this to continue. As long as we are organized and this is something that needs to be addressed now. School names, street names. I realize that not every place in California is going to be changed, because then we'd have to change the whole state, because they've claimed everything. Every city, every town, everything is named by the Spanish. By the Spanish conquistadors or the King of Spain. And while I realize that we are not going to try and change every single name, I will let you know that one of our towns is Verdugo. Verdugo means the executioner, the hangman. These are constant reminders and a continuous attempt to commit genocide on our people. Thank you.